Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here and update you on the latest of SuccessFactors and JAM. We should start with learning management and then continue to JAM. The major enhancements introduced in this release for LMS are Assessments, which is the name of the new, long-awaited unified tool to manage exams and quizzes in the LMS. A new Purge process for native LMS user data. We used to have a Purge process only for BizX LMS users, and now you will have the capability to purge native users, as well as admins and instructors, which are native LMS entities. We will also review a few notification enhancements. As usual, there are also quite a few minor enhancements and bug fixes, but we will not cover them in the scope of this webinar. You can read all about them in the release notes. So we should start with Assessments, which is probably the most significant enhancement in this release. Most of you are probably familiar with the two flavors of assessments in LMS. Exams, which provide a lot of functionality that can support formal assessments, such as randomized selection of questions using objective-based question pools, question variants, and more. And quizzes, which are the lightweight sibling of exam. They provide less functionality and are typically used for quick knowledge checks. While quizzes have already enjoyed a more modern creation tool and user experience, exams were on a slow evolution from the legacy PQE editor. But now we have a unified tool to create and manage both exams and quizzes. Exams now receive a whole new framework and a modernized editor. Quizzes don't change much in this release, except for the nice addition of image support, which many customers were waiting for. Having such a unified tool for both exams and quizzes will provide a more consistent experience for both admins and learners. As a bonus, some functionality enhancements are introduced for both. So, what is new for exams? In the next few slides, we will cover the main features. One enhancement that we can see here over the legacy exams is the option to manage different versions of the exam for different locales. Another enhancement is the option to preview the exam right from the overview screen, so you don't have to assign the exam to a user and test it there. You can add a question out of the 5 question types: single answer, multiple answer, true, false, ordering, and fill in the blank. And you can do it right here from the exam editor, and later on it can be available also for other exams to reuse. Or you can search for existing questions and objectives created in the context of other exams or imported beforehand. Exams may be built out of both standalone questions and from questions grouped under objectives. In the example here, you can see one standalone question and 2 objectives, which are included for this exam. Objectives include a pool of questions, out of which only part of them will be included in each trial of the exam. You can control whether questions should always appear for the exam, never appear for this specific exam, or appear randomly. You can, of course, set the points awarded for each question, the number of questions to include, and the passing percentage for the objective questions. And here is how the end of exam summary will look like. So you can see that there is a new, fresh look and feel for the exam, also from the learner perspective. The top part is the summary and the option to review the questions, while the bottom part are the exam details with objective success breakdown. It is important to understand that assessment is not just a new tool, but a whole new framework for exams, with a new and separate set of database tables behind the scenes. This means that to move your existing questions to assessments will require migration. The migration will be based on the import data tool, which will now allow to export the legacy questions up to 5,000 in one batch, edit them if needed, and then import them back as new assessment questions. At this point, there will be no way to migrate full exams from the legacy to the new framework. So the migration is only at the questions and objective level, not at the exam level, which means that after migrating questions and objectives, you will have to recreate the exam using the new assessment tools. Currently, there is no plan to provide an exam migration tool, so I wouldn't wait for that. I would migrate the questions and recreate the exam using the new tool. Another recommendation is to revise, to create a new revision for the item that previously included the old exam, the legacy exam, and after making the revision, add the new assessments exam. As for the roadmap for assessment exams, there are still a few missing features which will be introduced in subsequent releases, such as timed exams, proctoring, and pre-printed exams. Legacy PQE is currently planned to be retired toward the end of 2018, when PQE exam creation will no longer be available, although you will still be able to allow users to continue taking PQE exams. This functionality will be retired at a later date, beyond 2018. Let's move on to our next major change in this release, which is the purge process for native LMS users. Purging means removing permanently user data from the system. This is an important part of data privacy policies, sometimes required for adhering to government regulations such as the EU GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. Until this release, you could purge LMS user data through BizX purge process, which was relevant if your LMS users were in sync with BizX. Now you will be able to purge native standalone LMS users as well as admin and instructor data. The purge process is made up of 3 stages: inactivate the users, delete them, and then purge their history data. The inactivate stage was already available and can be done by manually inactivating or using the user connector for this purpose. Until this release, you could also delete a user manually, but now SuccessFactors is introducing a new automatic process called delete inactive native user, which will make it easier to implement your data privacy policy. Using this automatic process, you can set how many days a user needs to be inactive for it to be deleted automatically. SuccessFactors is also introducing another automatic process called Purge Deleted User Audit History for purging the history data for the deleted users. Again, you can set how many days users need to be deleted in the system in order to for the automatic process to purge their history data. Now let's move on to the notification enhancements in this release. There are quite a few. We'll cover 4 of them here. The first is an enhancement to the learning expiration notification, which is an implementation of a customer community idea. Learning expiration is the notification which is sent a specific amount of days before the required date to the user, to the learner, or to his supervisor, and then the periodic reminders until completion. A button has been added to propagate the threshold and the reminder period for sending notification to all existing active items. Previously, you had no way of doing this, so changing the configuration would only apply for new items. The second notification enhancement is to make it possible to send the VLS registration confirmation notifications with the link to the online event using the global admin email address instead of the instructor address. This is used to address privacy concerns, as well as issues of blocking of internal email coming from SuccessFactors. The third notification enhancement is a configuration to suppress informational ICS attachments when calendar invites are already used in parallel. Sending both calendar invitation and these ICS attachments was creating confusion or even blocking the calendar in case of supervisors. Now admins have the option to suppress these informational ICS attachments. And the last notification enhancement we'll cover for this release is a new button, View Default, that admins can use to view the system-provided template in notification template page. This is useful when the default notification template is overridden, in which case it may be useful to have access to the original version of the template for troubleshooting issues with the new template. Let's move on to Jam. There are a lot of changes in Jam, so focus only on the major ones. The first one is around knowledge-based articles. Here, SAP has made a considerable effort to boost this functionality, which already existed, but at a quite basic level. For those of you who are less familiar with the knowledge-based feature, well, these are articles that can be authored by group members in a structured way and shared with group members. This is very useful for knowledge-driven organizations like customer service and support, as well as other organizations. Knowledge-based articles have a dedicated section in the group separate from content section, where you store documents such as your presentations, PDF, etc. So knowledge-based articles is separate. There are already a few system templates to structure the creation of these articles, such as frequently asked questions, how-tos, and more. So let's take a look at the enhancements we have for knowledge-based articles in this release. The first one is the ability for group admins to be able to create custom group templates for knowledge-based items. This means that you can ensure that the articles created by the group members conform to your team's requirements. For example, if this is for a customer support department, you may want the articles to specify which version of the product they relate to, whether this is a technical or a business issue, etc. So the group admin can build this template by adding fields of various types, like multi or single line text, attachment, radio button, checkboxes, drop-down menu, and date. Another enhancement for knowledge-based articles is the ability for group admins to organize articles into consistent categories. The group admin can create up to 15 categories for the group. And when an author creates an article, it can assign one or multiple categories to that article. This makes it easier for group members to later on filter the articles based on category to find information they need faster. The last enhancement around the knowledge base that we cover in this webinar, that quite a few more, is the new widget that now a knowledge-based article receive, like we have for other types of entities in Jam. So these are just some of the main highlights for knowledge-based articles in this release. If you already use knowledge-based articles, you can now enjoy a much enhanced functionality. And if you don't use it yet, well, that's a good time to consider it. The next enhancement we have is scoped search, the global search bar at the top of the Jam page, which is already a very powerful feature, a very powerful feature of Jam that allows full text search, is now enhanced. So by default, your search is based on the context you are currently in, which may be the specific group content or a specific content folder, a forum, group tasks, etc. So the great Jam search is now even better. Now let's move on to another enhancement, which is messages. In addition to the rich collaboration forums that we have in Jam, Jam used to have the private message feature for one-to-one communication. But in this release, Jam private messaging is getting a major facelift with the introduction of messages. Messages are a much enhanced instant messaging platform, which is a really real-time synchronous service. This way, users can quickly sync on key topics before moving collaboration to the Jam groups. We have this feature both on the web and mobile. Jam is also introducing a few mobile enhancements for this release, for both for viewing and for actual functionality of the admin. There are, of course, quite a few more additional enhancements, and we really encourage you to take a look at them in the release notes for Jam. Thank you very much.